Welcome to the Rise Above podcast. I'm your host, Will Lambley, and today we have the honor of being joined by what many people around the Arkansas area know him as the kicker for the Arkansas football team. But today we're going to talk more about Cam Little and like who he is and how he's been able to use his platform to not make his life about him, but how he's been able to use his platform to impact others in a positive way. So first off, thank you for being on today with us, Cam.
Man, I appreciate you having me, Will. It's an honor.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we really appreciate you. And me and Cam have known each other for about the past 2 years, isn't that right?
Yeah, ever since freshman year.
Yeah, I think, did we meet at Fellowship, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Fellowship, yeah.
'Cause I remember I was going with Ryan, then you were with, was it John?
Yeah.
Okay,
and then, Yep, and then I think we ate lunch one time with one of my other buddies, some Bucks, and kind of just
because we're both from Oklahoma, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that like you were on the football team at first. But I think that's kind of how we got to know each other because I guess you don't see many people from like the Oklahoma area because like everyone, their mom at Arkansas is from Texas. It seems like.
Yeah.
But being from Oklahoma, what did like it look like for you like growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Moore, Oklahoma, to be specific. So you grew up in the Tulsa side.
Yeah, Tulsa
I grew up
side.
on the Oklahoma City side. So obviously, I think Oklahoma City is a little bit bigger than Tulsa. So growing up about 15 minutes away from downtown and 15 minutes away from what you could be in the quote unquote sticks was a pretty cool experience for me because I could get kind of both sides of the spectrum. And I grew up obviously in Moore, as I mentioned, and it was a good time, but I kind of was jealous about how good the Tulsa football teams were because they would always beat us in high school football and how much talent they had. So that was a little bit of a hiccup, but growing up in Moore was a good experience. My parents met each other in Oklahoma City, Moore area, and had me. So it's been a cool experience ever since I grew up there. Nice people, really respectful community, tight-knit community, especially after the tornado happened in May 20th. Got to grow as a group. So a really cool experience and good community around Moore.
Yeah, and how old were you when that tornado hit?
I was in 4th grade. I was still in school because they wouldn't let kids get checked out. So it was a kind of a frightening experience.
And during that time, like the tornado and like as you were just growing up, was there any activities that you were involved in or anything you were real passionate about?
I was really passionate about soccer at the time. My life revolved around soccer for the longest. And I had a lot of fun going to Young Life when I was younger as well. So I think I started going to Young Life around 8th grade, maybe freshman year. And that was a big source for my faith growing up and kind of found my fellowship through Young Life in high school and junior high. So.
Okay, and you started that beginning in high school?
Yeah, beginning in high school, yeah.
Okay. And then growing up playing soccer, were you like one of those kids that was like gone every weekend?
Yes, oh my gosh, man. Get checked out of school, be gone to Dallas, Florida, just kind of traveling everywhere trying to pursue my dream of playing Division I soccer, which obviously not playing Division I soccer now, but Lord willing, doing something I like more.
Yeah, it's crazy looking back on, like as a kid, like I know for me, my goal was always to play like college baseball. Looking back on like the plans I had, like in the moment, you're like, man, if this doesn't happen, then what even do I do?
Like, I'm out of luck.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. Yeah, I definitely would not be. I talk to my parents about this all the time. My close buddies that I grew up with in elementary school and all the way through up in high school. And I was like, man, if you would have told me I was playing Division I football when I was a freshman in high school, I would have been like, you're crazy. Especially playing at an SEC school, being on scholarship as a kicker is something that only the Lord's strength, can give me the power to do. So really cool just to know that the Lord's plan was different than what I thought it was going to be, but it was for the betterment of my future. I think Jeremiah 29:11 talks about the Lord's plan for us, and it's kind of being pursued right now through college football.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great verse, Jeremiah 29 verse 11, and then right after it says, "And these plans will come to fruition when you trust in God." Mm-hmm. And that's an awesome verse, and especially for anyone listening to this today, like if you think you have like a certain plan for your life, maybe that is God's plan for you, but my encouragement to you is, even when times seem shaky and what you want isn't going as you planned for it to go, that does not mean God's done with you.
Man.
Yeah.
Amen.
And
I've had a testimony to that. We'll get into that a little later in the episode, but I've had testimony to that a couple of times in my career.
Yep. And then you said that you got introduced to faith a little bit at Young Life. So like, what did that look like for you as you first started getting introduced to faith?
Yeah. So I grew up in a church household. My parents had both gone to church. faith was big to them, and they wanted to kind of give me the opportunity to pursue that faith as well. And so I grew up going to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, got the opportunity to kind of get to know the Lord at a young age, which is a huge blessing. And I thank my parents all the time for it, because some households, they kind of have to find a different way to pursue Jesus, which I'm super thankful about today that my parents gave me that opportunity when I was young. But started kind of getting my faith in 7th and 8th grade, kind of started maturing into it, understanding what God was, who this Jesus guy that came down to earth was, and what his teachings were. And 9th grade is when I seriously started taking my faith, kind of understanding what the whole thing was. 7th and 8th was kind of a preface for 9th.
Yeah.
And 9th and 10th grade was when I really started to understand what the Lord's will was for me, and started to grow even into junior and senior year. Started to kind of learn that I'm not on this earth just to understand what the Lord's plan is for me, but use the Lord's plan and the Lord's word to teach it to other people. I think that's oftentimes kind of an overlooked, not problem, but a part in our journey with the Lord. Is we're not only here to learn his word and to practice his word, but to preach his word to other people. All eyes are supposed to see, all ears are supposed to hear, all mouths are supposed to speak of the Lord's teachings. So that was something I kind of realized later in my faith was, to kind of go out and spread the Lord's word. So that's kind of my faith journey all the way through up into high school. And it's even grown more so in my college career. Came here as a freshman early. So I was 17 years old, living in an apartment with 2 other guys, had no other clue who they were, played football. Got recruited the same class they did, but not a clue who they were. And so growing up in high school, I had my fellowship. I had the guys I would hang around, the guys I'd go to Whataburger at midnight with on Friday nights, guys that I would go to church with, Young Life with, and that was all turned upside down for me when I first got to college. So that was a little road bump for me in my faith, because I didn't have people to practice the word with and people to hold me accountable. So thankfully, Cortez at FCA, shout out Riley Langerman actually for introducing me to FCA here at Arkansas. Really, really big step in my faith there was her introducing me to other athletes who pursued Christ and who were like-minded in that. So can't thank her enough for that, because without that, I probably wouldn't have met half the people in Christ that I have today. But she kind of introduced me to FCA. Got to know a lot of basketball players, other football guys, other sports, track, field, soccer girls that love Jesus, and it was good to practice that with them. So that brings me all the way to here today, preaching the Lord's word with one of my good buddies, Will.
That's awesome. And there's 2 big things I took away from that. In high school, when you talked about how you realize that our faith isn't just our faith just to stay with us, but we're called to let our light shine. I love it how it says in Matthew 5, let your light shine so that others can see Christ through you. And then the second thing, and when you talked about just find that community, because man, that is so important. Anyone that tells you just hang around anyone and you'll be fine, then they're probably not fine.
I think there's a verse in the Bible that talks about surround yourself with thorns and you're going to be grown into a thorn bush. But surround yourself with fruitful leaves and you'll be able to grow with the fruit. So that's a pretty cool that's something I kind of learned early in college, man. You got to surround yourself with like-minded people to grow your faith. But on the other side of that, you've got to introduce people that have never heard the Lord's word to Christ. That's what you're called to do as a Christian. So there's both sides of that you kind of have to be good about a Christian, about being.
And that goes along with the next verse I was going to talk about in Ephesians 3, verse 20 and 21. It talks about how Christ can do immeasurably more in us than we could ever think or imagine. And I think that goes great into what you just said about how I think a lot of times when talking to people about Jesus, we're like, oh, we can't do that. But I mean, sure, we can't do that. But when we put our hope in him, I'm sure, as you can testify, then he can do much more than we could ever imagine. As I know, I'm sure whenever you first, we'll get to it later, but got to college, you're like, man, is this really for me? And it's not, maybe it didn't go exactly how I thought it would go, because I know I felt like that. When I first got to college, I'd only been blind for 2 years. My first time being by myself, and I was like, at first I was like, man, God, I always wanted to go to Arkansas, but I was like, really? But just when I got those people around me, it was like, okay, God has a plan.
Amen.
And then kind of backtracking back to football, because I know you talked about how you always grew up in middle school, high school, all your life, traveling, playing soccer. So at what point did you kind of like get introduced to football? Was like just a coach came up to you or like, man, we need some guys on the team?
One of my good buddies, his name was Ryan Huerta. He played soccer, and he was a really talented soccer player. Could hit the soccer ball harder than probably a lot of people that I knew. Really talented on the field. He would go over there in football practice or during soccer practice in the fall, because soccer's played in the spring in Oklahoma. A lot of the times it's played in the fall in other cities and stuff like that. So during soccer practice, when we would be practicing, he would go over there for like 30 minutes during special teams period and go kick for the team. And he's like, man, I know you can hit the soccer ball really hard. Why don't you go out here and try this kicking thing? And I was like, all right, like, why not give it a go? Kind of just curious thoughts, because every time I would go out there with my buddies to throw the ball around, I would always kick it, because I could kick it farther than I could throw it. So I went in there for a special teams period one time and spiraled the football and punt. Didn't turn it over, but I spiraled it up. Spiraled down, probably went like 35 yards. Not a very big punt, but it spiraled, and the coach was like, dude, you can spiral a punt? You want to sit up for a JV game tonight? And I was like, shoot, I guess. So I put my pads backwards on the first time I wore them. Didn't know how to put in thigh or knee pads. Pretty embarrassing, I know, thinking back on it. But pretty cool experience. Not going to lie, kicked the PAT that game. Had a couple punts. Actually punted well, got a little extra roll out of one of them, so it kind of helped. But that was kind of the introduction to my football experience. Later going on, about 3 weeks later, I had attempted to play a varsity game, something with the transfer rule, because I transferred high schools. I wasn't allowed, but I got permitted by the athletic director, and so I got an opportunity to go out there and pursue a varsity game, Okay. And first playing Norman North High School. First varsity football game, playing Norman North High School. Snapper snaps it over my head. Drake and Isaac Stoops.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. The Stoops brothers, yeah.
Drake and Isaac Stoops come absolutely humming to me in the backfield. Picked the ball up, got smacked. Didn't fumble it, but came after me, and surely enough, I never wanted to play football ever again after that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was telling my dad, I was like, Dad, this football thing isn't for me. I want to pursue soccer. Soccer's always been my lifelong dream. I think this is time to hang up the cleats for football. And he was like, I think you have a knack for it. I think you should pursue it a little longer and not give it up. And thank the Lord, he told me not to hang it up, because football has given me a lot of opportunities, not only in my faith, but off the field to influence the younger generation, to help my team out. It's given me opportunities that I couldn't even imagine. Me, myself, would be given the opportunity, and that kind of ties back to what you said, man. You don't even know the opportunities you can have until you put your hope and trust in the Lord.
Exactly.
And it's a really cool testament to my faith. I feel like when I talk about that is I put all my hope and trust in the Lord in a sport that I had never played, and He made it happen, and he had a bigger plan than what I thought I had in soccer. So that's kind of my sport journey growing up, kind of how I made it to college football.
That's awesome. And then with football, I know you said your dad encouraged you to keep playing, but I know like going to practice and stuff, it was probably still like frustrating at times.
Yeah, man, it was super frustrating.
Well, was there some other times like at practice where you're like, am I supposed to be doing this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, all the time. It wasn't until my junior year really that I was like, man, I don't want to even be out here. I'm just going to keep giving it a try. And then it was my sophomore summer going into my junior year. I really got after it, and I decided I was like, Dad, I'm going to go pursue this football thing head on. I'm going to go out to the field 4 and 5 times a day, or 4 and 5 times a week. Sorry.
Okay.
And get after it. Learn how to kick. Watch YouTube videos of NFL guys, college guys. How can I benefit from different types of film, different types of kickers? The best guys, I was literally just trying to copy their technique. And thankfully, I started kind of catching on, caught wind of Cole's kicking camps. They kind of helped me in my journey, honing my technique and stuff like that, and met a lot of really cool friends through it. And they kind of helped me with my technique as well. So that's kind of, there was a lot of hardships in that. Wanting to quit, seeing guys around me get scholarship offers before I got scholarship offers. And it was kind of defeating. I was like, Lord, why are you not giving me these scholarship offers? I feel like I go out there 4 and 5 times a day. And that ties back to your testimony, man. Your testament put all your hope and trust in the Lord, and you'll reap the benefits of his teachings, man. So that's kind of my testimony kind of in that department.
That's awesome. And then I know you said, you mentioned Cole's kicking camps a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know for a lot of kickers, like they have to go to Cole's.
Yeah.
And did you get many opportunities in games to like kick long field goals?
Not
or, like,
really, not a lot. Our offense wasn't very good in high school, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
So I got a 48 I actually attempted a 63-yarder one time, and I came up well short. My leg wasn't prepared for that quite yet.
Did they have anyone back to return it?
No, thankfully.
Okay.
Thankfully. I did not want to have to make that tackle.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
All 6'2", 165 of Cam was not ready to make that tackle. No, but 48 I actually hit at the beginning of my career against Westmore. And
Was that sophomore year?
Yeah, or junior year.
Junior,
It was
okay.
48 against Deer Creek. Actually, it was 48 against Deer Creek, 48 against Westmore. Same spot, same everything. And it was really cool that in my career with the same make I started my senior career on. So that was kind of how I kind of got recruited, was Coles and stuff like that. I kicked good in games, kicked off, but just never really had the opportunities that I probably should have in high school.
Wow, that's awesome. And then you say you started going to Cole's camps. Was it going into your senior year or going into your junior year?
Going into my junior year, sophomore summer going into my junior year, I went to a training camp. Didn't get ranked till my sophomore going into junior year. Got ranked like 5 punter in the country and then like 20-something kicker.
Okay, so that came pretty quick then.
Yeah, punting did. And I was actually a better punter than I was kicker for the longest time.
Wow, that's crazy.
And when it was all said and done, I was number 2 on ESPN. I was the number 2 ranked kicker coming out and the number 5 ranked punter in high school coming out. So I had a couple punting offers out of high school, but I knew I wanted to be a kicker. I wanted to put points up on the board for my team. So that's kind of the end of that.
And then I feel like with the kicker too, like more people like want you to be out there.
Yeah.
And the punter, like no one really like wants him to be out there unless it's like a fake.
Yeah.
But so like as soon as you started going to Cole's camps, did offers just start coming like that, or was it more your senior year?
It was more my junior, I guess, junior summer going into my senior year is when I committed. That junior off season, so I played my junior year. That January, February, March, April, May, June, that was where the bulk of my offers came in. That was where I was really starting to kind of catch traction in recruiting. Performed well at a camp, the Underclassmen Challenge in Orlando, and really ended up kind of putting my name on the map for kind of putting trust in college coaches to start offering me. Oklahoma State offered me a preferred walk-on. That was my first Power 5 offer, and I was absolutely ecstatic when Mike Gundy called me. It was really cool to hear him talk on the phone, but that was really where I was going to go for the longest time if I'm really thinking about it. Arizona, Nevada.
And was the Oklahoma State offer your junior year, summer going to senior year?
Yeah, junior year, off season going into my senior year. So, or junior year, I guess fall. I don't even know what spring going into the spring before my final summer.
So like spring ball a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so I got that. I got Arizona, got Nevada, got Oklahoma State, got Colorado, got Memphis, got Arkansas, got a plethora of different schools, but it was really cool because it was going into it was after summer workout. I still remember the day. I was with my young life leader. I was eating at Johnny's Charcoal Broiler in Moore, Oklahoma. I can still remember this exact time frame of the exact day, everything. So summer workouts were done. Go to eat Johnny's with my young life leader. Get a call mid-lunch from the special teams coordinator at Colorado, Coach Reinert. He called me. He was like, hey, we're going to offer you a full scholarship. We've been recruiting for a long time. We think it's time to pull the trigger. And I was like, first full scholarship, first Power 5 full scholarship. I was like, holy smokes, I may get to go to school for free. That's really cool. And then I posted it. Coach Fountain from Arkansas calls me that night about 5 o'clock. He goes, Cam, I saw you posted your offer from Colorado. And I was like, yeah, it's a pretty big offer. Going to be a hard one to turn down. Kind of pulling the old, hopefully he offers me after I said that. And he's like, well, I think it's time we've decided we're going to offer you a full scholarship. And I was like, I'm committing. Just right on the spot. I was like, he's like, you ready to commit? And I was like, I said, let me go ask my parents real quick to make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, Coach Fountain just offered me a full scholarship. Can I commit? And my parents were like, you've been talking about it for a while now, haven't you? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, go ahead. So committed that night and it was a really, really cool experience to, know that my parents weren't going to have to pay for my college and get to be able to play at an SEC program on scholarship and hopefully contribute from day one.
That's awesome. And so at that point, had you already been on a visit at Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Junior day, it was March 3rd of 2021. No, March 3rd of 2020. It was a junior day. It's crazy. I still remember that date.
That was right before COVID. And
Yep.
everything. Okay, that's crazy.
The week before
Perfect
COVID.
timing.
The week before COVID happened. After that, you weren't allowed to take any visits.
Yeah.
So the week before COVID, I got to take a visit here, and the coaching staff just showed me a lot of love. The people around here were amazing. Seemed like everything was organized, and it just seemed like the right place for me. God kind of puts that on your heart sometimes. Man, I'm supposed to be in this environment. And so felt that when I was here, and talked to my parents about it for months, even before I got the offer. And I was like, if Arkansas offers me, I want to come here.
Yeah. And I'm sure something you picked up on, being from Oklahoma like me, I'm sure where you're from, there's a lot more like OU than OSU fans.
Oh my gosh.
But in Oklahoma, like you have OU and you have OSU, so you don't really have like one school that everyone's rooting for. But in Arkansas, like
everything is all hog, all hog here, 100%.
Like, people are crazy.
I mean, wild about it, which is a good thing for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. But after you made that decision to come to Arkansas, did you like know that you were going to enroll early, like right away, or was that kind of a decision you had to make?
So I didn't plan on enrolling early. I kind of wanted to enjoy my last semester of high school, but COVID hit, and I was like, man, what is it going to benefit me here staying an extra semester instead of going to kind of get the ropes of, like you said, your college experience before season gets here? Because it would have been a lot for me to experience going through summer workouts, and then everyone gets to campus trying to find my fellowship, trying to find my friend group, trying to balance that with trying to start in football and yada, yada. And so I ended up talking to my dad about it, and I was like, hey, can I graduate early? And he was like, well, do you even have the credits to graduate early? So next day I go and talk to my counselor, and I'm like, is there any way I can do these credits within this span? Because I made up I was like, Coach Fountain wants me to come early. Like, this is the special teams coordinator from Arkansas telling me I need to come here early. And she was like, we can check. And online classes were big at that time because of COVID. So I got to take a semester's worth of classes in 2 weeks. And there was probably 80 assignments a class. And I would sit there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and absolutely just grind it out. Because I wanted to pursue my dream as fast as I could. And the only way I was going to do it was if I got these credits in, or else I wouldn't be eligible to graduate.
That's crazy. How many hours did you say you were taking again?
In high school, I had to take 4 extra hours.
Okay.
So I had to take 4 extra classes that were required before I graduated.
Okay.
So that would have been 4 hours. So I'd have been 4 semesters. 2 semesters, 8 semesters worth of classes.
That's crazy. Wow.
And thankfully, the online stuff was a little bit skewed, so they kind of just went through one chapter and assignment. So that was kind of nice. But my mom was not on board with me graduating early at the beginning. She didn't want me to leave home yet. She thought it might be she didn't think it was too big of a step, but it might be too big of a step for me at 17 years old going into the real world. I'm living by myself. A lot of things in the real world aren't as you probably know when you first got here, aren't as they seem in high school, man. You're going home every weekend or every night, going to a home cooked meal, hanging out with your parents, waking up to them next morning, wishing you a good day at school. So I didn't know if she didn't think I was quite ready for that yet. And I wanted to take that step, but little did I realize how big of a step it was until I, kind of first weeks were there. And my mom wrote me a note when she was leaving me here, and still have it hanging up on my board today with a bunch of Bible verses as kind of my why. And I still cry at it sometimes because, man, that was a big step for me. I mean, 17 years old, man, that not a lot of people would think to do that and live in an apartment with 3 guys. So big step for me, but thankfully I did it because it paid off in the future. Yeah,
I'm sure, especially coming from your mom, she was probably thinking like, I thought I was going to get like one more semester, then you're leaving this early. She's probably like, what's happening?
What's happening right now? Yeah.
But once you first got to Arkansas, what were some like the biggest like challenges, whether it's with workouts or just like trying to find
working
your place?
out was a challenge. We'll talk about that in football. Working out was a challenge because I was this 6'2", like I said, I was like 6'1", 6'2", 160, skin and bone guy coming in, and man, working out with Traylon Burks next to me. It was something else, man. I go in there and I watch the receivers. I watch KJ and all the receivers throwing to each other, throwing and catching. And I'm like, dude, this is so different than high school football. So that was kind of surreal for me, and kind of had to come over the mind over matter thing with the workouts, which I'm a pretty strong-willed person, a strong-minded person. So I don't let a lot bother me. So that was kind of an easier path, but it wasn't easy. It was a little tougher. And I think my biggest challenge, I've probably mentioned this before when I'm sharing my testimony, was finding my fellowship here, especially with athletes, because I had such a strong group of Young Life and football guys and church buddies when I was back home. Mm-hmm. So it was easy for me to find outlets to hang out with, and that was a challenge for me when I first got here, was finding those outlets. And Lord willing, I had other athletes that were generous enough to introduce me to people and find my fellowship. So never take that for granted.
Yeah, that's so important. And for anyone listening, if you feel like you're in a place in your life where you're just like stuck, whether it's in a situation or with your faith, find those people around you that are going to encourage you, but also keep you accountable and point you in the right direction. Important. Because I know for me, when I started losing my sight, and even at times today, the biggest thing that's helped me is back when I started losing my sight, it was like those people on my football team that when I was at football workouts or whatever it was, I just forgot about what was going on because I knew they were there for me. Or now like people in my life that have just been the people that I know are pointing me in the right direction, 100%. Genuinely care about me. So Cam, has there been like some people like when you first started Arkansas, like, and like you didn't really know like where your place was yet that helped you?
Yeah, I mentioned Riley Langerman earlier. She was a big step in my so funny thing about Riley, I think my parents knew her parents pretty well, especially my mom. I think my mom knew of her dad pretty well. They both kind of work in the medical field. So
funny story. So she went to Christian Heritage, right?
CHA.
So funny story about that. So my sophomore year was when I started losing my sight, and the game I started losing my sight was in the semifinals against Christian Heritage.
Did y'all win?
No, we did not win.
Dang,
so it made it even worse. Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, but no, but yeah.
I've been to a couple Christian Heritage football games before, and man, was that 2A? No, 4A?
It was 2A when we played them, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
6A to 2A is a big difference.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
No, but her, Emory Ellis, basketball player, Hudson Clark, Hudson Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Ricky Stromberg, all those guys kind of introduced me to FCA and kind of took me under their wing and introduced me to a group of people that I had never met and was kind of so nervous to meet, so eager to meet because I didn't have anything that I had back home. I kind of had to trust the Lord in that sense that I was going to find my fellowship and apply myself to find those people and not be this nervous guy that's kind of just sitting back there and just listening to what people have to say.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that God taught me when I first started school at Arkansas was I think a big thing when people start college in general is everyone wants to fit in. But what I found most important is, as it says in Ephesians 2, that everyone is God's masterpiece, made for great works long before we're created. So what's more important than fitting in is just being who you are.
Yeah.
Because like there's only one of you. And would you say there's some times like when you first got here that maybe you thought, I want to fit in with this group, but you realized that,
man, this is not where I belong. It's not where I'm not being myself right now.
That I just need to be who God's made me to be because there's only one me.
Yeah, that played a big part in my testimony as well when I first got to college. Especially going from someone who didn't really hang around. I didn't hang around football guys a lot in my high school career. I was close to some of my guys on my football team, but I didn't hang around a ton of them. I was more so friends with soccer people and guys that I'd kind of grown up around in that sense. Outside of football. So it was kind of weird for me, not weird, but awkward, kind of an awkward phase of kind of hanging out with football guys, kind of understanding this whole football gist and being who myself was, being who I was and being myself kind of helped me find my fellowship a lot.
And would you say that's one of the biggest things like God was teaching you, like when you first started here? Is just be yourself.
That literally was the biggest thing he was teaching me. And I think he still reminds me of that to this day. It's just to be myself, be who he's created me to be.
Like and I think that's a big thing. And I know that for all of our listeners that no matter who's around you, I would just encourage you guys too that to let the light in you shine brighter than the light on you. Whether you have 2 people around you in your daily life or whether you have millions of people. It doesn't matter because God can use you no matter what. But
Amen.
He can only use you whenever you're being yourself every day, and I think that's been a huge thing for all believers that we've had to come to realize at some point or another.
Yep.
And it's hard at times too.
Yeah, it is.
It's like everyone, especially our age, wants to fit in.
Yep.
But it's definitely been something that helps you realize like kind of what we're going to talk about later, and like the importance of knowing your why.
100%.
But then going on, so with football, as you first got here, you mentioned a little bit being 6'2", 160. Something that stood out for me with you is I used to think that like college kickers kind of just like did their own thing at workouts, but like they made you like do all the workouts.
Everything that everyone else did. Good gosh, man. Pushing that prowler, squatting, same amount of reps those guys do next to those guys. So that was kind of challenging a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure there were some times, especially during what did they used to call Fridays?
Chaos Fridays.
I'm sure there's some times during Chaos Fridays you really questioned a lot of things.
Man, I questioned because I was pushing the same weight those guys that weighed 320 pounds were pushing, man. That was not fair.
Yeah.
That's still not fair to this day. I do not care what anyone says.
Yeah, I'm sure that definitely has helped you a lot mentally, even with
man.
kicking.
That's a lot of times. That's what workouts. I mean, granted, I get the physical benefit, but the mental benefit I get as well.
Yeah, I feel like because afterwards, like when you have that feeling of like I'm just dead. But then like when you go through the next workout, you're like, man, I'm invincible.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, 100%.
If I can do that, then like
Can do anything.
Yeah, I'm sure you felt the same way. I'm sure it's helped you like when you're in big stadiums kicking big field goals. You're like, okay, I can look back to times where I felt like
way worse than what I do right now.
Feel anything, but like if I can do that, then I know my technique and everything, and 100%. Now it's time to do what I do. But and then kind of going off with football again. So as you started like spring ball, like your first year, what did that look like at first? Was it all like smooth sailing?
No, it was not smooth sailing. I didn't have as successful of a first spring ball as I wanted to. I was the only kicker on scholarship here, so I was kind of expected to kind of come in and be this guy that's automatic. And I was competing against a really good kicker named Matthew Phillips. He was a really accurate kicker, really good kicker.
Yeah.
And he gave me a good competition there in the spring and in fall camp. But I kind of had to rely on something that I told myself throughout the whole high school process. And any young kickers out there, anyone doing life at a young age in a sport, I heavily relied on this and heavily preach this. Never worry about someone else's journey, but worry about yours more so than what you're going to worry about with those other people. When I was getting recruited out of high school, people said that I was too skinny, didn't have a big enough leg, wasn't accurate enough, yada, yada, wasn't athletic enough. So I said, okay, whatever. I'm just going to rely on my own journey and do what I can to the best of my ability and see where it took me. And it's took me to Arkansas. And then when it came here, I was like freaking out about every other kicker, what they were doing. Like, I think it's comparison is the thief of joy.
Yep.
So I kind of had to rely on that heavily and stop comparing myself to other people and just focus on what I was doing. And that's when I really started to become more elite level kicker.
Yeah, and a verse that reminded me of when you talked about like how for anyone, whether it's in a sport or like any aspect in life, you're trying to get that scholarship or that job promotion, whatever it is so easy to compare. But something I've heard too is like instead of comparing, just competing.
Yeah.
Just give your best, no matter what, because as it says in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 24, in a race, all runners win, but only one gets the prize. So run in such a way to win. So whatever the best looks like for you and in your walk, whatever it is, give your best. Because I feel like a lot of us think that, if I'm not the best, then what am I doing? But kind of an example I like to use is like anyone besides maybe like one of the top basketball players in the world, anyone, if they played LeBron James, they probably wouldn't beat him. But what you can always do in any aspect, wherever it is give your best. And I think that's a great example right there through some like trials that you face.
100%.
Just focusing on like what you can do. And kind of like what it talks about in James chapter 1 as well, it's when it says, consider it pure joy when you face trials of any kind, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its race so that you may be complete and lacking nothing.
Yeah.
And has there been some ways like with kicking as you started off?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You had to like,
testing
just trust.
He was testing my perseverance in a lot of senses. especially we'll kind of move on to later in my career. Freshman year, it was daisies and tulips for the first year of my career. I, Lord willing, had a really, really good freshman year career. Only missed, I can still remember the distances, a 42-yarder against Mississippi State, a 50-yarder against Ole Miss, a 53-yarder against Auburn, and a 38-yarder against Georgia. It's crazy I can still remember those distances sometimes. They're stuck in the back of my head. But it was all pretty nice because I could catch streaks and I'd just miss one, and then I'd catch a streak and I'd miss one. So it wasn't really affecting. So going to my sophomore year, I opened up 1-for-1 against Cincinnati. Miss a field goal against South Carolina. Doesn't really hurt us. We win the game. Miss another one made one against Missouri State, win that game. Going into A&M, have a 42-yard game winner, hit it off the upright. World turned upside down, totally. Probably one of the hardest weeks of my life. So many hate messages, people saying I was lucky my freshman year, people saying I wasn't this guy that people said I was, people saying that I wasn't ever going to live up to the hype of what my name was. Basically, people telling me I was just an awful person and I suck at football. That's summing it up. And I go to church that next day, and it talks about trusting the Lord's will. It talks heavily about trusting the Lord's will, and regardless of what the scenario is, regardless if it's having to run a marathon 10 times, if that's what the Lord's putting on your heart and that's what he thinks you should do, then go do it. And so, man, I was just in a down place when I was brought up by the Lord's word. And his testimony for me was not to go out there and make every kick, but to live out and glorify him in everything that I did, whether that be football or in the real life. And as soon as I realized that is when I started having success again. And I went on, I think, a 8 field goal streak after that, maybe 9 field goal streak after that, when I started really understanding that. So I think that was the Lord's testament to me was, I don't care if you make or miss a field goal. I'm not going to love you more if you make the field goal. But I need you to carry out and glorify me and spread. I'm giving you this platform to spread my word. Go and spread it. I don't care if you make or miss the kick. Go out and spread my word. And so I started to understand that and mature in that a little bit. And unequivocally, I almost had success through that. That's the Holy Spirit kind of working through me a little bit there, and ended up having a pretty successful little sophomore year. So that was a road bump in my life where I was like, Lord, why are you putting this on me? Why'd you send me out there to miss this kick? And every time before a game after that, every time I pray before the game, I pray the same prayer. I say, thank you for the opportunity you've given me, Lord. I know a lot of people would kill for this opportunity. Whatever your will is, whether that is to make, whether that is to miss every field goal the rest of this season, I want to glorify you in any way I can. So let your will be pushed upon me. And so it kind of puts me in a good headspace knowing that regardless if I make or miss the kick during the game, I know I'm the same in the Lord's eyes.
That's awesome. And for our listeners that don't follow Arkansas football much, Cam's freshman year, most kickers on college football teams aren't really insanely well known at college campuses. As you probably have a lot of kicking friends.
Yeah.
And but Cam, his freshman year, it started probably with the Texas game.
Yeah.
You probably started to get more following. Yep. He made was it 3 or 4 field goals?
Four field goals Texas game.
Yeah. And the A&M game's the one where you did the basketball celebration.
Shot. Yeah, I think my celebration's kind of.
And then you had Musk shouting you out. That's
that was really
marketing,
cool.
101 right there. And then it was the LSU games when you hit the gritty.
Yeah, man, I was on a tyrant my freshman year, just celebrations.
And so I'm sure going into the sophomore year, you're probably feeling like
I feel a lot of pressure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie.
Probably feeling pressure and probably thinking man, if I can't miss a field goal or I don't know what will happen.
I gotta live up to what I did last year. Yeah.
So I'm sure after that A&M game, I'm sure you really first off figure out who your real friends were.
Yeah.
And then second off, when you talk about that, how it helped grow your faith, it reminds me of 2 things. The song Waymaker, where it talks about even when we do not see it, God is still working. Mm-hmm. Because I know someone listening to this, or actually everyone listening to this, can testify to there's a time where in some aspect of your life, you didn't make the field goal, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
And you thought that was the only way you're going to find happiness or fulfillment, and that everyone around you was going to pat you on the back whenever that happened. but you didn't make it. But the awesome thing about a relationship with Christ is you can always find fulfillment. As Cam talked about, he still found fulfillment. And a verse I love, which I've mentioned on probably every podcast so far, is Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6, which says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understandings. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Because when Cam missed that field goal, probably the easiest thing to do for you would have been just sulk, complain, feel bad.
100%.
But
100%.
I'm sure the thing that helped you give you the most peace and helped you move forward was knowing my fulfillment isn't in what others say or my performance. It's in whose I am.
Amen.
And I'm sure that's played a big role.
Oh my gosh, huge role. Man, after that kick, like I said, lean not on my understanding. Well, my understanding was I should go out there and make that kick. And I remember I just talked on the phone with my mom, and I was just like, Mom, why did this happen to me? Like, why did the Lord put this in my life? Like, and she just preached to me that, man, this is a road bump that everyone's going to have to go through at some point. And use it as a learning experience. I feel like oftentimes, especially in the modern world, especially our generation,
Yep.
we are quick to, when something bad happens, we're quick to find a blame really quick or an excuse really quick, or sit there and sulk about what just happened instead of doing the polar opposite and saying, I'm not going to let this event dictate how I feel the next day, or how I dictate how I do in the rest of that season, or the rest of someone's career in their career path. I'm going to go out there and give it 100% for what I stand for. And I think that kind of talks to my testimony in that sense, is I wasn't going to let that kick. You hear the cliche statement of like a quarterback's performance or a kicker's performance. I'm not going to let that moment define me. But I literally, in that moment, was not going to let that moment define me. I wasn't going to sit there and go 50% the rest of that season. I was going to grow my faith, glorify God in the most possible way, or the best possible way I could. And so indirectly, I started having success on the field, and it was so cool to see the Lord working in me in that sense to be a living testament of what His Word says in the Bible.
Yeah, that's awesome. It reminds me of a quote that I like to share when we're speaking to churches or even like at businesses. In life, you can either let moments destroy you or elevate you to where God has called you to be. And I think that's something that is awesome about you in that moment and how you've used that. And another platform I like that you've been able to use, and I like if you could talk about a little bit, is after every field goal you donate. How much is it you donate?
$50 now.
Okay,
$50
okay.
Per kick. Yep.
After every field goal you donate $50 to is it Down syndrome?
Connections in Northwest Arkansas.
Okay, Connection to Northwest Arkansas. And what was kind of the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so I have a little cousin back home. I say little. He's about a year younger than me now. Gosh, man, growing up with him, time flies. But he's a year younger than me, and he put a lot of inspiration on me when I was young. He always, literally, anywhere you would be, he'd always have a smile on his face. Always would bring me joy. Always would want to play soccer. Always would want to throw the football. Always want to play basketball. Whatever it was, having fun, he wanted to do. And there'd be times where I'd just be like, dude, I just want to sit on the couch and not do anything, or just be lazy or be in this tired moment. And he would always inspire me to get up and do something, have fun, live life. Lord put us on this beautiful earth to go out and have fun, live in the glory of going out and play basketball with your buddies, live in the glory of going out and exploring nature, experience the world. And so I started to experience it with him. He put a smile on my face. So that gave me the inspiration to start, hey, how can I give back to something that's near and dear to my heart? And so I started with $10 every kick. Then it went to $25 or $20 every kick, and now it's at $50 a kick my junior year. So to know I can use the platform to kind of impact an organization that's special to my heart like that means a lot to me.
That's awesome. And I think that's awesome about how you talked about your cousin. Now he's always so like upbeat, because there's been so many kids I've been around that have either had like Down syndrome or autism, and they just don't know how to have a bad day.
They don't. And that's so cool to me. And it sticks out to me because they don't let a disability.
Yeah.
The only disability, what's his name says it from Clemson.
Yeah. So I actually use that in a lot of my speeches. So Dabo Sweeney from Clemson says the only disability in life is a bad attitude.
Exactly. 100%.
And, actually, whenever Coach Morris had me out at Arkansas 2 months after I got diagnosed blind, he said that same quote. And now, as I speak to a lot of different, whether it's business, team, whatever the group is, I usually share that quote. And something new I've started sharing is a lot of people, whenever they are in situations where they feel like having a bad attitude, instead of having a bad attitude, think about it like this. How can you have a better attitude daily? And when you think about like that, instead of thinking about like, oh, the situation sucks, then, I mean, there's no excuse, and especially when you think of kids that have, whether it's Down syndrome or autism or whatever it is, whatever anyone has going on, I mean, there truly is there's no disability because when you have a positive attitude, there's no limits for what you can do.
And that takes you so far, man. Waking up I love to wake up early. That's like a big thing for me. I wake up probably anywhere from 5:30 to 7 a.m. depending on the day. I love to start my day. Obviously, I like to read the Word, but I have to start it with some type of. I love caffeine because it gets me in this happy-go-lucky attitude, man. Just, I think having a positive, that kind of indirectly is having a positive outlook on things really changes your perception of everything. And I know that sounds like a cliche statement to some, but man, when you start looking at the world as this place loves me instead of this place hates me, man, it changes your whole perspective on things, man. You treat someone, you never know what's, and this is, my mom instilled this in me when I was young. You never know what someone's going through. You never know what someone's experienced in their past. You never know what someone's attitude is towards something. The best thing, the most respectful thing, and the best thing you can do is be nice to someone. Tell someone to have a good day. Tell someone, hey, man, I'm praying for you today because I feel like this, and this is going on with you. Hey, man, have a good Tuesday. Have a good outlook. Go tell someone to have a good day. Yep. Spread positivity, man. I know it sounds cliche, but it goes such a long way.
That's awesome, and it reminds me of something. I spoke to the South Florida football team last November, and Coach Morris talked about how we knew each other beforehand, and he talked about how in life there's so many people we come across that we might only have one chance to impact them.
Yeah.
And in that moment, you can either be a giver or a taker. And the reality is when you look around life, like you see so many people that are takers. And there might be days in your life where the easiest thing to do is just think about yourself and, oh, how bad is my life or how bad is whatever it is. But the reality is when you get out of your own ways and you be a giver, not a taker, you never know how you can not only change someone's day, but change the trajectory of their life.
Man.
And that's why I really love you talking about that, getting out of your own way, because you never know.
Yeah, you never know. And that's something I've learned every day is I think I really adopted it from my mom more so than anything. When you have a positive outlook, dude, even the worst stuff can just seem like the most minimal stuff to you. When you take up your cross every day, some of that stuff that, may seem evil and negative and depressing and just hitting you, boom, 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 every day, maybe a negative comment, man. When you take up your cross, man, that stuff doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. It says that in Luke 9, verse 23, take up your cross daily. And that's something that's so important. Helps with your attitude and really every aspect of your life. Because like Cam said, you hear a negative comment or something bad happens to you, you can have the realization that, okay, this might suck, but my hope isn't in whatever it is.
Saying, yeah.
It's in who made me and who has a place for me that is greater than whatever I face on this earth. Mm-hmm. And I'm just here on this earth to spread that love and that joy that comes from Jesus every day.
Yep.
And it kind of goes along with our next question. Being the Rise Above podcast, our mission is everyone in life has influence. The question is, what are you doing with yours? And something I've loved about Cam, as we've talked about with how he's used what's happened with some missed field goals or just hardships in life, and how he's used his platform to give back to different programs. What are some ways that you've seen that you've had to rise above different situations, and what's some of the biggest things that have helped you?
Man, I've had to. Texas A&M is a good kind of testimony to my faith a little bit throughout college. Like I said, when I first got here, I went through that whole trying to find my fellowship stage, so I had to rise above that. And I think my overall rise above here. I'll give you my number one thing right here. Overcoming. It says in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be renewed in your mind by the Lord. Almost to that exact same extent. And that's my life verse. Do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be renewed by your mind in the Lord. That is my daily challenge every day. That's something that I need to rise above every day. That's something I've had to rise above every day. It's to not conform to the patterns of the current world. The current world is filled with hatred. It's filled with negativity. It's filled with people that want to put you down. It's filled with jealousy. It's filled with bad attitudes. I mean, I could go on, but it's filled with something that's going to take you down. The devil's trying to get to you one way or another. So by not conforming to the patterns and not listening to what that world has to say and only listening to what is in those books in the Old Testament, New Testament, man, that's how you're gonna get after it.
That's awesome. And for anyone listening, Romans 12:2, that is a great verse to memorize, whether you're elementary, middle school, high school, or whatever aspect of life you're in. That verse right there, if you could carry it with you in any aspect of life, it'll take you so much farther than you could ever imagine. And something else that I remembered as Cam was talking there is like, this world, I mean, it will be hard. But in John 10:10, it says, the devil, he wants to make it hard because the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But God has come so we might have life and have it to the fullest. And that's something that is awesome about what Cam said is when you have that relationship with God inside you, that doesn't always mean times you're going to be perfect. Sure, you might face hardships, but through that, you'll know that, man, you can still have a peace and a joy that is unmatched. And that kind of goes on with our next question, which is something that has been instrumental in my life, and I know has been instrumental in many people's life. And that is like knowing what your why is. Because a lot of people, when they face hardships, the first question we ask, and I know I'm guilty of it, is, why is this happening? But something I've been reminded of recently is instead of asking, why is this happening? Remember, what is your why? So Cam, what is your why?
Man, I'm going to start off by saying, like I said, I pray before every game is glorifying God, man. That's why we're all put on this earth. That's why everyone in this room is put on earth. That's why everyone in the world was put on earth, was to eventually hear and learn his teachings and glorify him, spread the word of God, love God, love people. That's my church's memo back home, is to love God and love people. So to glorify God, but if we're talking about a sense in my life where I am going through a tough workout, or I'm going through a hardship in kicking, or I'm frustrated with school, I think back to my parents, man, how many sacrifices they've made for me when I was young to come to my soccer games on the weekend when they could have been relaxing at home. How many financial sacrifices they made for me to go to football camps. How many sacrifices they made for us to go on vacation occasionally. I really want to retire my parents. Hopefully, Lord willing, that's with the NFL. So every time I go through a hardship, I think about, man, that's my why, is to retire my parents for them to live the life that I want them to live. A hardship in my life that happened when I was asking Lord why was earlier this year, man. My dad had a 5-way bypass surgery. And if you guys don't know what 5-way bypass is, it's basically where you have to bypass an artery in your heart to get more blood pumping to your heart. So my dad had clogged arteries, so he couldn't get blood pumping to his heart. And he had an emergency 4.5-hour heart operation. And that was a big thing for me, man, because I split second there. I thought I was going to lose my dad, the guy that my best friend growing up, my dude that I looked up to, and I still look up to this day to be an inspiration to. I thought I was going to lose him. So that's my why in that sense, is to provide everything I want them to have. I want them to not have to work. I want them to travel the world together. My parents. I want to get my dad that dream Corvette he's always wanted. But not only that, but to glorify God. That's my main number one goal.
That's awesome. And I just from what you've said there, I just know that your why, and knowing that like when times get hard, instead of asking why, like, you know that you have something greater to lean on to.
Something greater.
I'm sure that's helped push you so much.
Oh my gosh,
especially
yes.
to the goals you do have for the future. And I know for people listening, your why might be different, but the biggest thing I encourage you with is don't make your why just about yourself, because when your why is just about yourself, it is so easy to get down when hardships come. But when you make your why about something greater than you can always rise above whatever 100%. The storm is, even when you don't see it. But there's always a way. And my last question for you today, Cam, is there's going to be someone listening to this today that just got that diagnosis, or is dealing with stuff in their family, or is dealing with a hardship that might seem small, but it's just nagging on them and they don't know how to get through it. What's your message to them today?
So when I go through something hard in my life, like I mentioned, the Texas A&M kick, or my dad having that huge operation, trying to find peace in the Lord, is I literally open up the Word and I have to dive into it. If that's not something you're accustomed to, I highly suggest, I think me and Will would highly suggest that you just dive into it. Literally, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the 4 Gospels, man, just dive right into there. There's so much of the Lord's teaching, so much of what He wants you to hear is in those 4 Gospels. I mean, the whole Bible has them, but those 4 Gospels really preach what going through hardships looks like. And that's what I do when I seriously start going through something hard in my life. I have to either talk to a buddy about it that I'm a friend in Christ with, or I literally have to seclude myself for an hour, 30 minutes, and just dive into what He's trying to teach me. Because that's the Bible, if you guys don't know, is the Lord directly talking to you. Literally, you and God directly talking to each other. Prayer and reading your Bible is God directly talking to you. I can't repeat that. I'm going to repeat that one more time. God directly talking to you in the Bible. So that's how I deal with hardships, and I highly recommend it. To find peace in your heart and to find peace in your mind, you have to be one with the Lord. If you're not, you're not going to reap the benefits of the Lord's teachings.
That's awesome, and that's the truth right there. That if you're dealing with something hard and you don't have a relationship with Christ, or maybe you do have a relationship with Christ, but you're not leaning onto Him.
Lean on Him, man. He's there for you.
That doesn't mean that times are going to be perfect, but what it does mean is like there's always going to be a hope, no matter what you're facing.
100%.
And if you don't even know who to contact, you can always contact our Instagram page, Rise Above Pod on Instagram, and DM us any questions. We're always there to help with whatever it is, and know that no matter the storm you're facing, that whenever you go to Christ, you can always rise above whatever the storm might be in your life. And we can't thank Cam enough for being on with us today.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been really cool tonight.
Just remember from hearing whatever he's said that stood out to you today, that when you put your hope in something greater than you, then you can always rise above. And we cannot wait to catch you guys next week. And you can catch us on all social media platforms, whether it's YouTube or wherever you listen to a podcast, and on Instagram, where we'll post most of our content that's coming up moving forward. And know that as you go throughout the week, whatever you're facing, you can always rise above the storms of life. And we cannot wait to catch you next week. See ya.
See ya.